All right, all praise to the Most High Yahweh, and to His Son, my brother, Amashiach Yahushai. Peace and blessings to my brothers and sisters from the Israelite tribes. All right, in this video, we're gonna revisit the YDNA halpogroup chart or map. So I am on a PDF file that I downloaded dealing with Africa. So that's why you have this this little segment right here at the top. But it's a massive PDF file that I downloaded dealing with Africa. But a lot of the charts and information um, that I often use, like even the Sub-Sahara halpogroup charts, a lot of that information comes from this PDF file. Not all of it, but some of it. It just a lot of PDF files from a lot of other researchers and scientists and professors that normally do paper or white papers or whatever data collection, and they put it on to the files, and they put it onto Wikipedia or WikiOne, or they put it into NIH or what's the ResearchGate forum, or they do EUpedia forums. There's different sites that they use to get the information out. So we are looking at this YDNA map, and now all of a sudden you have a lot of Hebrew Israelites interested in DNA information, and I knew this day was coming. This is vital information to, add in the holes and the gaps to a lot of problems that we are having with different understandings of history and groups of people. So let's zoom in into Africa. So I once heard a camp leader talk about DNA and how DNA is just another tool that I'm paraphrasing, but DNA is another tool for white people to control Israelite people thought process and to control the whole agenda of mixed racing or mixed groups of people. And I think the person was referring to like autosomal DNA information, and autosomal DNA information is a different science altogether. And me personally, I don't look at autosomal as percentages of ethnic groups, as most people would probably look at autosomal or administered DNA as. But let's get back into the content at hand. We have different YDNA haplogroups in Africa. We have the Hermetic grouping of people. So you have, let me do this real quick. Go, go out. I think it would be easier if I show you this real quick. Because I think people operate when you have like matching information that pair off well together or pair well together. So this is a very similar charting or chart system like the map. So the map is showing the overall concept of the halpogroup layout. This is going into the sample. Now the interesting thing is these samples just vary from people groups and from other surveys that are done. So this information is also in different PDF files and forms and other sites to get into. And so what we are looking at on the map is very similar to what is going on in this chart. Even, let me go to the side right here, and we go right here. Yeah, I'm gonna show you something. You got that O right there, so we pull out, and we go back to the map. And as you can see in the map, you got that O. So you have a mixed grouping of ethnic groups on the island. Dealing with Madagascar, you have, I don't even, I have um, a subclade chart of Madagascar. But as you can see, you have O1, or not O1, but yeah, O1. And you have E2, E1, B1A. So you have Israelites on this island, you have Midianites on this island, you have Japhetic Asian people on this island. So real quick, I guess we should just get into the haplogroup. So all the A groups and all the B groups, these are the two groupings of Hermetic people. So you are dealing with two separate grouping of Hermetic or African native groups of people in Africa. So for people that want to say, no, all the E groups are Hermetic people, because most of the E groups are dealing with black people. Yeah, the sad thing is you have a R1B on here, and look what R1B is dealing with. So technically, all these groups of people are still dark complexion people. You have a minority within Japhetic groupings of people, and in the E1B1B grouping of people that are dealing with pale complexion groups of people. So so they would have to get used to that being the case. Um, the other interesting thing is, I know on the chart, let's go back out once again. Yeah, on this chart, we see at the end T. So we go back, and on this chart, you see at the top, in that, I want to say, Tunisia region, You have some tea. So, and there's a possibility that you can find tea also in Eastern Africa. That's like one of those hidden Japhetic groups that would be one of the imitation groups of Elam. So all these Japhetic groups of haplogroups are dealing with imitation native copycat groups because most of the time the uh, original people that settle in those regions, they don't settle too long. They start to relocate, and often there's remnant from that population that relocate that just stayed behind. So that what often happen in DNA, you know. So that's why you will and you probably do have uh, remnant and percentages of Hamitic people in the Near East region, just like you have Solomon Island people that are originally from the Mediterranean as ancient Greek people. You still have remnant of them in that Greek Isle region. So um, that's the unique thing about uh, DNA information. The other thing is, well, I don't want to get off topic or get lost right now. So we move into the E grouping of people. So I heard, you know, Israelites talk about how inaccurate and how certain uh, haplogroups don't break it down into people groups or into other ethnic groups and stuff. The issue is, this is DNA information. This is information that you pair off with the table of, or pair with. I don't know why I keep on saying pair off with, or pair with the table of nations. So, the table of nations is dealing with, families, and from those families you get tribes and clans. So, with a similar understanding of that, you go into the DNA information with understanding overall groupings of people. Just like I said, you know, A and B is dealing with hermetic groups of people. Then you start to understand, the table of nations. You go, okay, uh, hermetic children uh, put a foot, um, Mizraim, what was the other one? Canaan, and forgive me for not knowing all of them, but um, we could just say probably Ethiopia. So those four would be split in between A and B understanding. So you have different groupings of those people, and according to DNA, you just understand where people are at. So all these people originally started from the Near East, or as I like to look at it as Northeast Africa, and they relocated all the way down to South Africa, most of them. Uh, so you have all these people relocating. So you basically, you know, try to understand through scriptures and other content who these people groups are, and you could, figure that out. There's uh, different physical traits and attributes of all these groupings of Hamitic people. So you could easily understand that, um, the Dinka people would most likely be the Egyptians or the Mizraim people. And then you start to understand the other groups by uh, different physical features as well, and uh, Hebrew terminology. And then you go, okay, well, this would probably most likely be dealing with this group. So it's not that hard to relay scriptures or Hebrew terminology to other groups of people, not just Hamitic people, but our people, because, like I said before, you have a lot of Israelites in West Africa, and Ghana itself is a Hebrew term that just means garden. So we just have to, properly research and look for things to make notations. And once you start to go into the detailed notation and to the detailed history of things about the people group, then you'll see, okay, wow, these are Israelites, or these are Edomites. So speaking of Edom, so in the E grouping of people, you have E1A. E1A is dealing with Shemitic Ishmaelite people and Shemitic Aramite people. So you have people dealing with Abrahamic stock with E1A. So you have this Dogon region, I believe they are trying to point to, because I think that's the tribe that they use, Dogon, which is true. You also have E1A in um, northern Nigeria and also in Niger. So you're looking at Hausa groupings of people and Fulani groupings of people, Wadobe clans of people. So those would be your Shemitic, Ishmaelite, and Aramite people, uh, your E1A grouping. Your E1B1A grouping of people would be dealing with a lot of Bantu groupings of people along the west coast of Africa. Even into the southern part, because obviously they had a migration period, and the migration period was due to slave trade. So you had a massive slave trade that was happening from North Africa and parts of West Africa back over to the east of Africa. And a lot of that was caused by the Berber clan. So when Israelites go, I need a name of Edomite people from Africa that's ruling the world or influencing some type of transaction with other high power uh, people groups. Well, you just tell them the Berbers. throughout history, this grouping of people been in business with America during the transatlantic period because of the strategic location that they are at with rival trade slave trade holders. So um, they was in different partnerships with different European countries, and they are by the Strait of Gibraltar. So they have a lot of economic influence and military influence in the region. So they are a very unknown grouping of people, even though the king himself, the monarch. The interesting thing is uh, he would most likely just be like a Japhetic person. Uh, if anything, he's a tear of Edom. But I think his DNA pool would be like a J and a U. The U would be the mtDNA of Scandinavian women. So that family is just like other families of monarchs. They are just plants. So the monarch in Casablanca would be just a Ter or a Japhite. Other than that, the population of the clans and the people group itself is dealing with mostly Terrs. You have a lot of Edomite Terrs. So Edom has a very spoiled seed, and the seed is not just in northern Africa, but also in eastern Africa. As you can see, E1B1B at the Horn of Africa, and then you have a pocket of E3B in southern Greece and Albania. So this is Edom. So that would be the group of people that you instantly say, okay, the Berber clan, and they go, who are these people? What influence? Well, a lot of history, a lot of influence. Uh, World War One, World War Two, slave trade on both sides. The Sub-Sahara, the transatlantic, um, different modern day treaties with a lot of uh, American groupings of people, or American allies and European allies, Asian allies. You have them also involved into a spice trade. The spice trade is also hooked into the original slave trade, movement. So before they was dealing with slave movement or migration, it was always a part of a spice trade business, and then the business start to become corrupt, and then they start to uh, become an asset to Europe and other groups of people, giving them information about Israelite groups and communities, and eventually they start to create this migration of Bantu people or Israelite people into further parts of West Africa in South Africa. So that's where that Bantu expansion happened, and it never stopped from the different slave trade. It just been a ongoing migration even till today. So not just that you have Bantu people still migrating different parts of Africa, you have Berbers now slave trading their own people to different parts of the world. So you have that happening, and that's a great irony, and that's a good thing. What goes around comes around. So you have that happening. So you have E1B1A dealing with Hebrew Israelites. So you have people that have proper knowledge of Hebraic culture and understanding of different dialects of Bantu that would closely be related to Paleo Hebrew or Block Hebrew or Aramaic Hebrew. And you have bigger community centers of Bantu groupings of people still practicing certain parts of Torah and other customs that would be Hebraic. So you have that fueling the knowledge and the understanding that we are Israelites. So those communities are being carefully watched by these northeast communities or cities or groupings of people in northwest or northeast Africa dealing with the Israelis and different Arab groups, because their practices in West Africa is very close to the ones that they do in the Middle East or Northeast Africa. So the propaganda that happened was they did a documentary on the Limba group, and the Limba group was supposed to be the connecting force for the Sephardic, the Ashkenazis, Nazis, the different groups of Jewish people that are claiming to be Israelites. So they wanted to make it a DNA thing. They wanted to do connect the dots and everything. So I call it the Limba hoax. And it's a hoax because they was trying to go to South Africa to look for influence in a community structure of Hebrew Israelites that were not Western influenced by the other Bantu groups. And they picked a pocket of people that they knew DNA matched other groupings of people that wasn't E1B1A. And they purposely said Limba DNA information when the E1B1A group in the region is the Venda group. So you have the Venda group, and you have other clans of people that would have a smaller grouping of E1B1A haplogroup among them, as well as Hamitic and other Shemitic groupings of people. with the E groups. But the limbo grouping, for some odd reason, had R1B. They had two different subclades of R1B and a defining mutation count. While other groupings of people in that area start to pick up on E1B1A grouping of DNA and some hermetic A grouping and B grouping, but it's like, okay, so they literally planted they planted a group to connect the dots of being Israelites to create a full circle effect of saying we are this very diverse group of people that been scattered among the earth. We are the Israelites, but technically they don't say that they are Israelites. They just say that they are Jewish, and they still stick to the thing of not knowing exactly what a Jew is, and you have all this technology and information, and you still can't understand, the 12 sons of Israel, you know. So the Limba group would have been like the priest group. So they said that they had the Cohen gene, the priesthood gene among the grouping of people. So the Limba hoax was just taking Limba DNA and connecting it with other European groups of people in the world. So that's why I, look at DNA differently. I try to use the table of nations to be the basic foundation, and then you get into the different detail of what information white people want to give to people about haplogroups and other things about DNA. So let's see what else. E1B1A, Hebrew Israelite DNA, E1B12, or E1B12. E1B1B is dealing with Edomite DNA, like I said before, and the same way Israelites are scattered, the same way Edom and Ishmaelites are scattered. This thing become a important point once you get into macro groups. mtDNA, mtDNA, you have nothing but a lot of our E1B1A DNA mixed with mtDNA dealing with L0, L1, L3, L4, so there's a lot of Israelite tears out there, so you'll have half of the DNA information that you need to be a Israelite. So you have and a lot of Israelite that I've seen, even on YouTube, they will have L3. L3 would be a very common tear. L3 would be Edom DNA for mtDNA. So you have L3 and L6. So due to Edomites spoiling their seeds with different groups of people, you have so many tears and so many mutations among those groups. Once you start to relocate, you start to live in a settled area for a long time, you become a new grouping of people, but you can still trace your ancestry from those parts of those splits. So there's a understanding of migrating and then relocating and then settling, or your start point or your origin point, and then moving and then settling. So that's where that admixture, those percentages, comes into play for my understanding. Maybe not the DNA company understanding, because they are making billions of dollars of profits off of selling DNA kits and letting people just get like a basic kit, and the basic kit is just dealing with ethnic groups or admixture or autosomal DNA, and it's just percentages, and they go, your ancestry is from this group of people, and they put the percentages. So me, I do all this stuff for free, and I don't ask for money at all. I work for a living, and that's about it. I don't want anybody outside influence to say, hey, I gave you $20 2 weeks ago, $40 a month ago. You know, I want you to listen and to repeat what I say about DNA on your video versus what you are thinking and what you are researching. So, DNA companies, there are pros and cons to every corporate system, and the same thing with DNA information, the think tanks, the forums, everything like that. So pick your poison wisely with DNA. Know the gaps, the loopholes, know the hoax in the system that people often fall for. And that's where I'm. That's why I'm here. Doing these videos or trying to relay the message of DNA information, because on TikTok and YouTube, I see tons of percentage videos. And it's like, just tell us the haplogroups, give us the haplogroups of the people, and move on. But you can make so many videos off of percentages of people percentages to where people would just clickbait it for likes and stuff. So it's it's just another monetary system. So let me plug in my charger because my battery is low. So you have all our people being scattered into different clans and ethnic groups throughout the world and throughout Africa. So the interesting irony of this is being scattered. So due to my research in both white DNA and tDNA information, fascinating information on a lot of people groups. So when you come to my video and when you put in a comment like giving us or giving me your personal DNA information, that's cool and everything, but at the same time, you could probably Google search it yourself to be protected from whatever I might say in the comment as a reply. But honestly, whenever you are a different haplogroup or macro group from not being Israel, you just have to look at the information as closure to uh, your backstory, and as a different type of blessing to be aware of who you are in this moment in time. And you'll also have to have an understanding of the movement and the capability that all these people groups had to go through in time and different generations to get to those points of historical ties to different events. So while I tell people, to leave a comment and so on, you know, like always, follow the community guidelines, be cautious, uh, but at the same time, don't be, too sad about, the reply comment, because um, there are Israelites among so many people groups that are heavily intact. So you'll have both mtDNA and yDNA groupings of Israelite populations within groupings of people. So um, don't be discouraged or turned off about DNA information once you get like the bad information that you Edom or Ishmael or other people. So Dogon tribe, E1A group right here is dealing with a split group of people that are Ishmaelites and Israelites. And I think in this PDF and in another PDF, you actually go into the chart systems of the samples, and you can see the defining mutations of both groups. I only, do the detailed information about Israelites. Somebody Ishmaelite, Edomite uh, person may have a chart system for their family, but I'm just, considered or concerned about um, my people. So um, in that Dogon, you have two groupings of Israelites among those people. So that's a interesting thing. And then you have what else? Um, you have other groupings that's like um, there's a big Israelite group of people with several different Israelite groups among them, and I can't even remember the name of the Bantu group, but yeah, that happening. So you have not just split grouping of scattered Israelites among Shemitic grouping of people, but you have Israelites among other Israelites that vary with percentages. So we have to be mindful of that. Uh, the Kosens, Zulu, Aksa, um, there's Hema. So you have all these A and B grouping people that would normally be considered Hamitic people Among them, as well as you can see, the E1B1A Bantu expansion group layout in South Africa. You have a lot of our people among them, you know. So look at the terror, Nelson Mandela. He has a E1B1A dealing with Joseph, and his mtDNA is hermetic L0. So, and that's the common thing. So to get back to my main point, you have this irony of uh, different parts of Africa being unstable. So there have been people for decades relocating and becoming migrant workers in different parts of the Near East or the Middle East and different parts of Asia and different parts of Europe. So you have big populations of people relocating to Europe and so during this period of Ukraine and Russia conflict, you have an irony and an epiphany happening with uh, Israelites that have been in those regions for a long time, that migrated or that are students, that are now residents and stuff in different European countries that are under threat by this war. So you have, a decent minority group of our people in different European countries, and you hear the way they are being treated and the way that they are, being uh, put into refugee camps. You know, this has been going on just as long as the same problem as many One West camps want to say about their people from their 12 tribes chart. And not just that, but these same people from over here, they'll easily end up over here just to end up over here. So they use um, the same system that the One West camps 12 tribe chart would use for their people. So it's the same migration pattern. So um, into America via smugglers. So but compared to what like America has more civil laws and civil rights uh, maneuvers and flexibilities to deal with this issue of migration and illegal immigrants. So while Europe and other countries, they don't have that flexibility because they preach a certain game, but they are really still super naturalist, super right, racist leaders. And they only want to, properly, install laws to maintain order, to go, okay, we will let so many of these people into our countries while stealing the lands that they left behind. And we'll do it with a IMF bank loan, a World Bank food program, um, NGO vaccine um, programs. So there's a lot of ways that the European people can manipulate their situation with my people, our Israelites, going into Europe and Asia versus, anybody and everybody with the right amount of money and connections can easily just get into America. So, so the irony and the epiphany of our people being scattered, furthermore, into different places via modern day. So we have a modern day movement of our people that a lot of One West camps don't want to talk about, because now these prophecies and these scriptures are heavily being fulfilled, with our people just moving everywhere out of Africa because of, the prelude to Jacob trouble, famine problem, ISIS, and other, problem with corrupt governments and American influence on the continent. So that's why we have to properly know this information, because without America being good friends with the Berbers and a lot of the Habesha people in Ethiopia, Africa would not be a thing. It'll be, you know, um, just a few American military bases, a few NATO special interest bases in the continent. But now you have like a lot of bases. You have a lot of European and American assets, private and military assets on the continent, along with a lot of Chinese influence infrastructure projects and everything. So um, you have a lot going on with Africa, with Edomites and Japhetic people trying to take advantage of the power vacuum, or the vacuum left behind from people migrating out of the country. So this is similar of a rebroadcast of what happened to our people in Israel once we got kicked out or had to leave. You know, people relocated in our places behind us, and they claim territory and land, and throughout years they go, this is my property, this is my land, this is my inheritance, once they start to have children and grandkids and so on. So that's how Elon Musk could be a so-called African American when he's not even close. That's a ADOS thing. Not a thing to where you be, from an American woman or an African parent and an American parent combined. In Babylon, they will hope for you to think like that and say, okay, you also are African American. That's why Babylon is, noted as a state of confusion, because they want that. That's why they endorse interracial relationships and families and so on, because they make you want to believe that everything is mixed from being the original ancestry of something, or the original ancestry of something don't exist anymore. The extinction. All the people groups that ever was and have been, are still around. So, can animals become extinct? Certain species, yes, but at the same time, those animals come from mammal groups, reptile groups, and so the overall category is not being extinct, just a certain species. But when it comes to people group, yeah, nobody is extinct yet. There's a extinction that is coming for Edom, but nobody is being extinct yet. So, like I said, our people are being forced to relocate. So, this process, when I was woke, uh, we call this Agenda 21, uh, gentrification on a bigger scale, because they want people to leave heavy resource regions into already heavily populated areas. And they want this so they could heavily tax people and track people. So that's the process of Agenda 21. And now Agenda 21 is probably Agenda 22, as they, push it into a different matrix for different algorithms and data mining programs. Because out of nowhere, this beast system is going to happen, and it's going to come via some type of reset, some type of excuse to do away with a financial system and structure and tool in progress. And once it happens, you're gonna have so many people rushing to do things before certain um, amounts of currency or credit expire, and then the process of being, installed into the new program, into the new matrix, is gonna happen. So we just have to be aware of these things and these traps. So you have Israelites in modern day relocating and being re-scattered again. So the irony is, you might have Jake and Eve becoming citizens of West African countries. Meanwhile, you have uh, Jake and Eve from Africa relocating into Asia and into Europe to be trapped into, a different system of living. So we should be mindful of those things. What else? E1, B1B, E2. So E2. So without getting into technical marks dealing with how you read pie charts, this E2 is just a letter group of E halpogroup that's dealing with Midian. So this is dealing with Allure people. So these are population groups that are among other Hermetic groups of people So when you look at these people, you'll probably just say all these people are just Hamitic people, and you won't even think twice about it because all these people are black. But within those groupings of people, you have Midianites, E2 people. Let's see. I guess we could shift across. So right here, you have Australia. A lot of the Native Americans, the first groupings of people to settle in America, would be this C group. Now you have different ways that they got over. It wasn't just this land bridge. They also did a straight trek over the sea because there's islands. There's a lot of islands everywhere in the Pacific. There's a lot of volcanoes in the Pacific. So you can sail to America from different parts of New Zealand and Australia. You can migrate from island to island until you send a scout team out looking for different, resources until they'll find the Americas. So, via Iceland or via sea, these people came over. So you have the remnant of Aboriginal Australians, mostly dealing in different parts of Central and South America. Um, you have some remnant population dealing with people in California via grave sites. So, but yeah, C3 would be dealing with different Garifuna populations. So it just vary with the different groupings of people because also the Garifuna people mix with other groups of Native Americans. The R1B, they mix with different slave groups. They mix with the Q group. So you have a lot of tears of Moabites and Japhetic people among these people. And all these people would just look like they are African American. Are there E1B1A groups in these areas? Of course, because a lot of these areas had heavy slave population. And throughout time, via the slave revolt, wars, and other plagues, a lot of the population dwindled in size. So you have certain dense populations within Brazil, like Bahia. There would be a population of Bantu groupings of people. In Colombia, you'll probably have Chocolate City or Chocolate Town. Those communities within those areas of dark population, you'll have percentages of E1B1A and L2 groupings of people among those groups of people as well. But also, you will have E1B1B, E1A, L0, L1, L3, L4, you'll have a lot of the same groups of people from Africa in those regions. So when it comes to the One West chart, when it comes to the Negro only doctrine, you'll have a lot of problem with identifying Israelites among these populations and these groups of people. You also had Dutch people in modern day, I want to say in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, they purposely relocated a lot of Aboriginal people. They did like a job program. They purposely put a lot of Aboriginal people in their Dutch territory, and eventually those people up in French Guyana and Suriname and other parts. So that's why you have different mutations of the subclades, different defined mutations of those groups. So we have to be mindful of that. If you look at old videos of me doing this map, um, you'll hear me say there's a ghost gene, and there's a lot of ghost genes among a lot of halpogroups. And you know, the C group, so you have C1 groupings in the Americas, and you have these C3s, and you have other C groups. It's a big grouping of subclades. Then you have C2A, you have C4, you go to mainland, C3, you have other C groups and subclades. So you have to realize that, that a lot of these people have migrated in circles throughout several regions so many times. And then you have to realize that you had different countries' influence and laws and stuff to relocate people into certain areas. So that's why Sao Tome and Principe is an interesting topic to look into and research to look into for DNA information and historical reasons, because now we have data telling us that they was relocating Moorish ancestries to certain regions in Africa. Did they do the same in the Caribbean? Probably so. Probably so. Because you have this R1B grouping. So slowly we're getting a answer and a picture to things that we needed to know about people migrating, period. So this R1B, when R1B is dealing with the American Indian population, there's a good chance and good percentage that most of these people are dark complexion people. Even though, you do have this R1B marker dealing with the same people group in Europe, but the same people group that is being dealt with in Europe is also in Chad. So when you look at the YDNA, so let me go back to this back out. When you go to that region on here, I passed it. The Udumi people, chat it. And yes, it's a small percentage, but the survey and all the other stuff are dealing with like big numbers of samples, not just uh, private sample and geo samples, but other DNA commercial samples. So the survey portion could be linked to that or other information. So a lot of these numbers could be hit or miss, but you go to the end of the chart and you look at the percentage, and then you scroll up and that's the R1B. And then you go to the tribe. These are dark complexion people. Now the same tribe of dark complexion people, so on these PDF files or on the chart, so you have the chart like this and they leave blanks for a reason because of the research and the surveys that they do with people. The same ethnic group, the same tribe, you click on the Wikipedia source or the tribe name and it goes into the Wikipedia information. You go into that info, you start to see like a black picture of black people, dark complexion people. This same group, this is the same tribe of people that Chris Rock comes from. And Chris Rock is a B halpogroup person. I think he's a B2. So those boxes dealing with the Hamitic groups, the Shemitic groups of people, and other Japhetic groups of people are blank. But you know, in the PDF files that I have, all this information is in that PDF filing. Uh, so just wanted to share with y'all that information. And I guess I could, let me scroll back out, do this real quick. So you have that R1B group, you have, let's see, let's do white people. These are white people, South African whites, Indo-European identity and languages. So look at these percentages. Look at the R1B. Let's see. You do have a percentage of Edom among them, but it's low. And these are white people, yeah. A low percentage of R1B versus that. And look at the number of people, the sample. So now we get into the Berbers. I think they have something on the Berbers here. Not 100% sure, but let's see. Berbers. Okay, yeah. So look at the sample size. I go A, B, E1A, E1B1A. So you have some Israelites, they've been in the comment section, uh, a few Israelites or a few terrorists. They go, hey, I have a E1B1A, this, and then I have an mtDNA, this. Who am I? And I go, well, paternal wise, yeah, you're an Israelite, but the maternal group, yeah, that's something else. That's not a Israelite group. And then you have, perfect pairings. And it's like, yeah, you are a lucky, Israelite to be among your enemies, and they are outnumbering you the way they are, and that people group. So this is a very common thing with Israel among Hamitic people, Japhetic people, Shemitic people, and Africa. So you get to E1B1B is 80, R1B, nothing. So you scroll up, that's 80, scroll up, E1B1B. And then you go, well, the Ethiopian Jews, well, that was an interesting one too. Because, I often was split in between who these people were because, all of them are not Hamitic, all of them are not Japhetic, they're different, So we go to the Ethiopian Jews. Are they? So they go, all these people are Shemitic, language system, Afro-Asiatic would be the name. So you have Hamitic stock, and then you go along. So you have A, B nothing, E1A nothing, E1B1A nothing, but then E1B1B something. So you go up, you're looking for E1B1B, pow, E1B1B. So now we know it's just a split grouping, and you also have R1B among those groups of people. You know, that's one of the groupings of people that they use to connect um, the Limba hoax with. So you have the Limba, you have the Ethiopian, you have the Sephardic people, you have other European Jewish ethnic groups, and they form this Limba hoax that I'm talking about. The Dogon people, like we've seen before, look at that. The split A, B, E1A, 45.5, E1B1A, 43.6. So there was somebody who had the Fon people. I think it was the Fon people. The Fon people, are they still here? Let me go back to E1B1A. Okay, here we go. Bamileke. Oh, it was a Bamileke. Um, Off the top of my head, I can't remember what was the groupings of Israelites that was dealing with. Originally, I thought this was dealing with Judah. It could still be dealing with Judah, but there's defining mutation markers that tell us that there's bigger Israelite subclades among this group, and I don't remember the um, the markers off the top of my head. This is what happens when you go old and you go bald. So a lot of the information, comes and it goes because like as you notice from my videos, so with a lot of the videos that I often do, you know, I rant and go off topic, and sometimes I get back on topic perfectly and sometimes I don't. And I'm just the same way in public when you talking to me. Guess what? The conversation is gonna go off topic, and eventually maybe we'll go back to the topic if I remember. But other than that, we're gonna go everywhere because that's just the way I am. And how long is it? Yeah, a long video. And originally, this video was gonna be like a TikTok video, broken down into parts, and um, I don't think that's gonna be possible. This is just gonna be like a Israel DNA video, and that's about it. Let's see. Linking. So the interesting thing is, you click that, and you go to the Wikipedia, and the first thing that I noticed about the pictures was they had a statue, and on the statue, you can see somebody in a garment, and you could tell that they had a French on the border of the garment in the statue, and I was like, wow. Even though the statue was an interesting uh, depiction of this grouping of people, and then you go to other pictures of them, and you see the attire and the culture. So um, it wouldn't be too far fetched for a lot of these groups of Bantu people to have fringes, better fringes, proper fringes with proper material with the fringes on the garment at one point. So uh, that my uh, that my thoughts and what I noticed about certain Bantu groups. So so all of these people aren't just like wilding out in the bush. The Hema, where the Hema people, Hema, Huma, Hero. So these are other Bantu groups of people. And again, these are just scattered uh, percentages and surveys of different groupings, but these are the groups of people that have a big contrast. So um, some of them are in the same region, but a lot of them, vary in dress code. So the Herero people are the people that look like they are dressed for Sunday church service, and then the Hema people are the people that put the clay on their body for different um, clay, dirt, whatever you want to call it. You know, they they put the dirt or whatever content from the ground on their body, and they said that it's medicinal and other healing factors dealing with that. process that they do. Now we have to give these people the benefit of the doubt, because guess what they do in spas? Exactly. You ask for a mud bath. See, it's okay if white people do it, but if dark complexion people do it, we are dirty people. We we are this, we are that. You know, not just that, but what if putting dirt on white people's skin is actually a better, SPF from sunburn and tanning? So often we have to just rethink about certain things and certain, you know, uh, trends that we see and don't see, and remember and can recall upon when it comes to, a lot of this, DNA information. So just wanted to share with you that. What else? Ghana, as you can see, the E1B1A percentages are high. It doesn't mean that there's no Hamite or Ishmaelite among them, but those groups of people are in those regions as well. As you saw on the map, there's a E1A grouping of people. Here go the Dinka, high population or percentage in A grouping. So you have A halpogroup 62, B 23, E1A 0, E1B1A 0. And look at this. You have E1B1B 15. So, like I said before, be very careful out there with understanding this information. Uh, let's see. What else? Daza chat. You have a blank. You have a lot of blanks. Obviously, they either want you to go to the Wikipedia source or to a PDF on that tribe. Yeah, there's a lot of blank. Yeah, A blank, B blank, E1A, E1B1A blank. All of a sudden, E1B1B have a sample. E2 is blank. R1 J J J is 5.6. R1B is 33, and then T is up with a percentage. So R1B and T are Japhetic groups of people. The same with J. So this is J, and I forgot to talk about J. So we scroll up J. So J is dealing with the occupiers. So JYDNA and macro group J mtDNA are literally in the same region of the Middle East. Um, the other irony is, a macro group, JT is a thing. So JT is a pair group, and it's just telling you that this T is a ladder group of J. So the J group is just a lot of Caucasian people in the Middle East, and some of them made their way into Central Africa, you know. So, so you have J, R1B, and T, same group, the same as this O, this O, this I, this R1A. So all those are Japhetic groups of people. So my terminology in the DNA and my DNA world is different. I look at the three sons of Noah as foundation of race and people grouping. So a lot of times when I go into race and other things, I just look at, the original foundation of people groups, especially when it comes from DNA information dealing with Japhetic people. So they have a big setting of haplogroups from G to T, and all those would just be Japhetic people. My argument often with that grouping of people, they have a reverse order hoax on that group. Other than that, those are the right groupings of people. They just mix order the group, or they could have just done, bigger groupings of haplogroups with the groupings being consolidated. Because when you get into the macro groups, those same groups are so much bigger. Like this R group, the R group and the macro group and the mtDNA is so large that it's crazy. So there are um, groupings to where they do try to consolidate and try to say, okay, this is the latter group, this is the ancestor, and so on. Uh, you could probably better understand it in the mtDNA content versus the um, YDNA concept of it. Because, like, in the YDNA, you obviously understand that there's a protein count separation. So, uh, there's no connection to the groupings of people from pool to pool, other than, they have a same ancestor, period. But they start to break off into so many deep pockets of different protein counts to where they are not uh, closely related anymore. They just are grouped together in the same pool because of something common. So that here goes Allure. So E2, there you go. You got a little bit of Ham, a little bit of Israel, and a lot of Midian. Um, so let's see, Amara. Let's see, we have Amara. Is it Tigray? Tigray, Torak. No. Okay, so Amara. So we look at the Amara people, another powerful group of people in Africa that many people don't know about. And as you can see, you have E1B1B. I'm pretty sure They have E1B1A samples. Most of the time, these blanks mean there's a specific subclade that was populated from that sample showed up in the survey, and I mean not the survey, but in the sample. So they just left the blank, or maybe several. It could be either uh, one major group or just several groups of E1B1A subclades. So you have J and T. So you have a lot of people dealing with world bodies that are from this group of people. You also have people that are in business that are from this group of people, or moral people. So these are other groups of Edomite, you know, influence people that influence world behavior. So we have to be mindful of that, because remember, um, these people in Ethiopia, Eritrea, and Somalia, let's go to Somalia. All these people been in a on and off civil war that America and different Asian countries been backing and supporting. So this is why we have to be very mindful of the Black Hawk Down situation, the situation with Somalia being drone attacked, the new parliament of Somalia being assembled, and Eritrea and other Ethiopian territories. Because yes, there's Israelites in those regions, but also there's uh, a decent size of Edomites in that region. So let me scroll down. So let's see, Oromo people. This is a interesting group of people. They've been reclassified. So you have different groupings of people because they go Cushitic, Afro-Asiatic with languages, and you scroll. So you have A with 10, B with 1, E1A 0, and all of a sudden E1B1A is blank. And then you have this big percentage of E1B1B. So, and then you have T 5.1. So, this grouping, and this in Ethiopia, this is probably I think the majority group. This group is, I want to say, it's a part of a E2B1A grouping. They classified that as a E-M329 grouping of people. That grouping of people, the first time I saw this group, or the subclade dealing, or the subclade, the defining mutation dealing with this group of people, was on Dr. Ephraimite chart. So Dr. Ephraimite on Facebook, his E1B1A Hebrew Israelite group or community, he has a chart dealing with DNA. I have a YDNA layout chart. I have several different with dealing with summaries, dealing with draft, dealing with update, dealing with ethnic groups, and so on. So it's a process. You just constantly narrowing down the information to as accurate as possible, because all these people groups, all the tribes of Israel, are not just in one region, in one tribe, one ethnic group. They are literally scattered. This information, this information gets even crazier when you get into mtDNA. And mtDNA is leading women when women do their DNA information. They know a lot about Y-DNA, and then they start to do mtDNA research. The issue is they are thinking that the four daughters are different representation of um, Israelite women. When I say the four daughters, I'm talking about Laban daughters. But Laban have one type of DNA that he would pass on, period, to uh, his children, even to his daughters. So they can't be four different groupings of women. They can only be the same. So let your theories fly on that, but um, there's DNA boundaries, and you have um, with DNA, like I said, you have protein boundaries, you have ancestor ancestry boundaries. So you can only do so much of mutation in a region per cycle because of the diet, the food supply, and other environmental um, influences among that region. Different disease, different traumatic experiences that shows up into DNA factors and health problems. So um, DNA can be changed accordingly. So we have to, constantly, properly understand what points in the Bible that we are referencing from with this information, because you're gonna get lost and you're gonna, be out in deep space in no time with, you know, thinking outside the box, and you don't really have to overthink DNA. It's real simple after you understand what they are trying to relocate and hide from people. So Dr. Ephraimite, he's a terror. Is he and I separately, his view on DNA information is different from my view of DNA information. Slovakia. It's been a while since I taught this long, and I'm still in bed mode. So excuse me and forgive me for um, being hoarse and my voice being, the way it is. I probably should drink some water real quick. All right. So we have different views. Like everybody in this information dealing with Hebrew Israelite DNA have different point of views on DNA structure and so on. So he made a chart. I saw E-M329, and I was like, huh. Yeah, I think that's probably the only one. He only had like a few of the tribes and the marker match well underneath each other. Other than that, the others was like, this is not that tribe, that's not that tribe. What's going on? But he's technically a expert. He went to school for this stuff. I didn't, you know. I took from whatever bits of information, of YouTube information he gave to many of us, and I expound on it. I double down, triple check the research and the information, and I started to differ and vary in thoughts with people groups and other things. DNA being like a big crime scene and everything. So it's a different way that I look and view DNA and people group and things in general. So the Moro people still are Edomites. A lot of Ethiopian people are still dealing with Edom. That dealing with the Shemitic group of people that's constantly asking or saying that they are Habisha. So you have Habisha, you have Somalis. Let's see, the Somalis. The Somalis. We go here because everybody think the Somali people are African. Well, just guess what? They have Cushitic language. They have Afro-Asiatic language, but there go the A and the B. Now we scroll over. You have E1A, E1B1A. You have A, B, E1A, E1B1A, E1B1B. You have T. So I like this. This was one of many because this bigger surveys. So you have T and E1B1B with percentages of Somalis. The only problem is I've seen higher samples of Somalis being, in the similar sample pool percentages of high E1B1B. So you have the Somalis. Let's see. Sao Tome, Principe, E1B1A. You do have percentages of European people because the irony is, you do have some percentages of Moorish people And I often say this in TikTok comments or videos or so. You have percentages of Israelites as Moors and as natives, but it's not a great population. It's not big population. It's not a big sample. It's just a small percentage. The same way you see that 5 people tested, or about 5% of Berbers or E1B1A, pretty much the same with our people group among Moors and native population. It gets even harder when you start to look into detailed information about the Americas, dealing with communities. All you see is E1B1B and Q, L3. So for them to say the 12 tribe chart that One West has is something to respect and to definitely live by is awfully wrong. I wouldn't do it, especially after getting into Y-DNA information and then getting into mtDNA information and then combining the two and starting to see the bigger picture and the crime scene and everything is like, yeah, there's a reason why this society is called Babylon the Great. America and the Americas are being Babylon the Great headquarters and so on because of those uh, concepts of us not really fully understanding. Anybody could bear witness to your spirit being endangered. If they come close enough to your being, your spirit, while endangered, guess what? They will also be endangered as well. So we just have to be very simple with our understanding of what we are talking about when it comes to bear witness spiritually, when it comes to this new information with DNA and so on. We shouldn't, let it go too deep. We just should get like a, a basic understanding, build upon that, and move on. Don't get stuck in this room. Yeah, it's easy. Study, take breaks, look into other things because I came into DNA from looking at physical traits, and I was into physical traits and features for a good while. And once I kept on seeing certain traits on black people and white people, I was like, there's something missing among this mixing concept. It's more than that. And I'm like, there's no way we all have the same diet to get that deformity. There's no way we have different base diseases, and modern day they create diseases uniquely designed for your DNA structure. So I moved on from that into this, and now I understood what I was seeing and the traits versus DNA, and it took a while. And I was like, okay, in my notes, I was like, this and this. I was grouping. I was doing this. I did the table, and then I started the group, and I was like, the gypsies, these. Then, but I heard an elder from somebody One West Camp say the gypsies are Israelites, and then before I knew it, you had other One West Camp saying gypsies are Israelites, and then you had Hispanic groups of nothing but Israelites saying that gypsies are Israelites, and African American peoples are not Israelites. And it's like, what? Wait. How did they broke off into a whole different segment of chart system? Is it still one West, or is this their content excluding? So it's one of those things to where you just gotta build, look into things and collect. On TikTok, there's a brother that I follow. They do like entertainment and sensational videos on top five and certain things, and he was doing the percentages, and my comment, is different from his followers and him himself. I'm dealing with DNA. My TikTok page is dealing with DNA information and also memes. I like to poke fun and have fun. I like to troll. I like to do different informative things. But my thoughts and my comments on those videos are very different from his output and his thinking. Like, he did a video on a comment recently, and he couldn't find uh, Cuban ancestry or Puerto Rican ancestry of black people or certain groupings of people. Uh, I just commented, I was like, Siboneyes and Black Caribs, or Siboneyes or Black Caribs, because, I, literally Google search all these terminologies that I would hear on Kemet channels and other channels, Black Native American people channels about ethnic groups in ancient time. I go, okay, and there's information about all those groupings. Here we are thinking that people groups are extinct, and they are not. When it comes to DNA, you can find all these people DNA because one of the forms of DNA extraction besides spitting is teeth, dental, bones. They they run those things through a process, and it's on the page, like on the PDF file that I'm on. They go into several methods of how they do the DNA. So um, it's just, those things you just have to really take notes and research the people group. Like, another heavily Hamitic group in Ethiopia is the Brody people, the Big Belly people group, and different parts of Ethiopia that have the big stomach, and they, I guess they do other groupings of African cultures and ethnic groups do often to make it seem like they are of value. They drink camel milk or goat milk, and they blow up their bellies to make it look like they are healthy people, to make it look like they are wealthy. So, but that information is not on here. But you Google search that group, it'll end up under a regional or a people group or a country sample test of DNA information, and eventually you see the different surveys and methods and results and stuff. So there's ways to get, small to mid-sized to big ethnic groups, subclade or defining mutation markers. You may not find all of them, but you could get to a close relative of those groups of people. So just like at the bottom, Oxa. So you have Oxa. This is a Israelite split group. and it's a part of this super clan of Zulu people. So as you can see, the splits. Let's see what else. Yeah, Sudan. So you have the Sudan, the different groups. So you have the Arabs, and all Arabs mean is just heavily mixed grouping of people. Like um, global elites want the future society to look like an Arab population or a Brazilian population with the tinted tan skin complexion. So um, Arabs are not technically dealing with Ishmaelites, you know. The other groupings of people that would be looked as Arabs, but people often get them confused, would be the Berbers. The Berbers, when people go, the Arabs or the Edomites, they are most likely referring to Berbers. So, so these are just mixed, heavily mixed people. So that's why you need Y-DNA information and mtDNA information understanding to see if these are Ishmaelites or other people, period. So in the same region, you have Neolithic. So Neolithic could vary from Hamitic to Shemitic people, you know, just people based along the Nile River. And our ancestry is based upon the Nile River. So that's why E1B1A is the Nile River Valley DNA. You know, it's the Great Lakes, you know, basin, Great Lakes, or the Great Lake regions, all the way up into the Near East region. So all of that is dealing with the original start point of E1B1A. So you have that that, and you have West Sudan. So we scroll over, as you can see, Neolithic has B, AB percentages. The Darfur have like a little bit of both. We go into E1A, E1B1A, nothing, and then POW, E1B1B. And remember, all these regions have been in chaos and conflict for decades. And these are the regions that are dealing with Edom. And these are like famine based, desolate, war torn regions. So we getting to the point to where we have to know and have to understand that uh, you can see modern day curses on Edom, period. You know, the slave trade, them trading their own people into slavery, the different civil wars and close common regions within the same cities, countries, territories, you know, regions. So Edom, the the house of Edom is not at rest, you know, at all. So pygmies. So very short groupings of people that have Hermetic ties. The issue is what happened to this grouping of people they've been heavily displaced. So in this group of people are well-traveled people. So not just that, they are displaced by Bantu or other colonial influences via trade or torture, but these are just very well traveled people. So let's see what was the samples. So yeah, obvious percentages high with B, and we move over to E1A, and now we move over into E1B1A. As you can see, you have some Israelite influence on the people group. So there you go. Now we know. The Nur, the Nuba, the Nubians, we should already know, these are just reference to dark complexion content of people. And let's see the groupings. Our percentage of Hermetic groupings. Then we go into and see. So these are very dark complexion people right here. And now you scroll over, you see, okay, A and B, E1A empty, E1B1A empty, and now we move into E1B1B. So you have Edom being very dark complexion, not just dark complexion. So we just have to be very mindful of exactly who Edom is, where, and the influences. So Mandinka. So this group, the Mandinka, what else? There's another tribe of people. All these people have a subclade, a E1B1A subclade, defining mutation. In the research, when you go into the research of these people, and you look at the defining mutation marker, the subclade, this group of people, not all the people, but the markers that come from this people group would be dealing with Dan. So with Y-DNA information and tDNA information, we can locate the different groups of Dan. Um, this group, so the Kong people, this group would be a part of the massive group of southern portion of Bantu and Hamitic groups of people. So these are similar to Khoisan, Aksa, Zulu, other groups of South African Bantu people and Hamitic. So they are part of a super clan of people, and let's see what they sample as. It's important, even if it's a little or a lot, to know these percentages, because when you go into the defining mutation and you come up with certain surveys and samples, and you find, Israelite markers among these groups, it's important to know, you know, how much are we, scattered by, and often it's a lot. We are in every nook and cranny in every niche and neighborhood. So the Kong, so A and B got percentages 36 and 8. Then you have 0 for E1A, and look, 39. 39 for E1B1A, and look, 11 for E1B1B, and then E2, 6. Now, once again, all these are dark complexion people. This group marker, this column marker, the only defining mutation point that I could find on the tribe of Reuben. So this group of people would be dealing with the tribe of Reuben. Not all the people, not just this one group of people, because we scattered, but the defining mutation sample that I found came from Reuben. So, and then the other argument that I heard a one West camp say to an African brother, they don't have the sample of an Israelite group of DNA to compare it. Everybody knows that's BS. Everybody know that from day one, they took as many bodies from Egypt, Ethiopia, and other parts of the Levant and Africa to do DNA testing on to find exactly who people were. And nine time out of 10, a white paper somewhere would tell you that. Would they tell you that here on Wikipedia? Probably not. Probably not. But that's why when you look at those ISOGG groupings, you have so many representations of E1B1A before you actually get to a subclade. Those representations are not a human marker. It's a reference point. You know, it's not a living ancestor marker. It's just a reference point from the information that they have from the breakdown from the DNA groups, period. So they know the target groupings and they know exactly what they are trying to organize. So because this information is not meant for people like me without a degree in anthropology or genome biology to figure out, I shouldn't be interested in stuff like this. I shouldn't be wanting to correct and to um, um, connect the dots with DNA information and biblical material. So, um, but there's a few of us, and the grouping of us, people that are interested in this information, get bigger every day. So we just have to, deal with this time period, and before we know it, everybody gonna be talking about DNA this and that. You know, I was surprised to see Sakari and other camps talk about DNA information. A long time ago, surprisingly enough, there was rogue GMS soldiers that did DNA, and they did that video a long time ago, way before me, and so there are people that have been doing DNA stuff, but not detailed information, and it's either a hit or a miss, and you know you just get in where you fit in, and you start to connect the dots, and you know. Um, I'm not too big or too proud to say that I'm wrong about something or mix something. There've been videos to where, you know, somebody said, this population is bigger than your people population, and you know, looked at the numbers and the lady was right. Or the issue with Or was it? It was something else. Uh, Recently, somebody said, "Hey, this DNA group could be the group of this person," you know, and I haven't triple checked the information that I collected, but I'm pretty sure that would be the case, because I'm not heavily, you know, with knowledge of every scripture in the Bible. I try daily to get better at content and feast days and laws and everything to where it's, a routine. It's something that I already know and I understand the different point of views. I'm getting better at it, but I'm not great at it. I'm not an associate scholar. I'm not a master. I'm not a doctorate scholar at knowing scripture. So, but when it comes to this, I'm good. I'm not great. So, um, the Kikuya people, this group, and I want to say the Luhas. This group, the Luhas and the Lu people, um, they have percentages of Israelites among them as well. Let's see how much. As you can see, Northeast Bantu, um, Lu people. So let's see. E1B18, there you go. 73, 66. There you go. Malagasy people, the same, These are the people that are on Madagascar. So you have that, and then this. So, yeah, I think this video is just about done and over with. Unless I want to rant about something else, but hopefully within these 2 to 3 hours, everybody got whatever they needed about whatever I ranted or gave thought to about DNA comments dealing with when West Camp people or other people, or even my thoughts, my beginning thoughts of DNA versus now are very different. So, and I was glad that I was, taking notes and stuff because, it just showed a decent progression on how I became better with knowing different things. Other than that, uh, once again, all praise to the Most High Yahweh and to His Son, my brother, Amashiach Yahushai. Peace and blessings once again to my brothers and sisters from the Israelite tribes. Thank y'all for the views. Thank y'all for the comments. Once again, leave a comment and I'll get to it with either a video or a reply as soon as possible. With that, peace and thank y'all.